Welcome to the Private Practice Startup Podcast, where we help ambitious private practitioners across the globe to brand themselves and grow their dream practices. We chat with successful private practitioners, business coaches, and marketing experts, bringing you tons of practice building ninja tips. Visit privatepracticestartup.com for awesome resources, attorney-approved private practice paperwork, and our signature marketing e-course. Here are your co-hosts, Dr. Kate Campbell and Katie Lemieux.
Hey, Startup Nation. Welcome to another episode of the Private Practice Startup Podcast. Man, Kate and I have been on a 4-month sabbatical while she has been on maternity leave. So this is our first time back since 4 months ago. So we might be a little rusty, and I'm just hoping that I can remember everything that I'm supposed to do and how to intro the show. But
it's fun because there's been no break for you guys. So that you guys haven't been on sabbatical. You've been continuing to get the podcast delivered to you every single week. So hopefully you've been keeping up with the show. And man, it feels good to be back.
It does. It does. So last week for you guys, right? Last week, we hope that you guys joined us when we spoke we spoke to someone from CPH INS, which is, of course, one of the liability insurance companies. And we talked about protecting your private practice by avoiding the most common insurance claims. So you definitely want to check that out. It was really cool. We went over different case studies and things that you could learn about through these different case studies on how to avoid legal risk. And Kate and I are always talking about that. Today, we welcome back Dr. Sean Davis from California, but actually he's in Mexico City, which is very fitting for his topic today. And his topic today is how to get paid to travel. So he's going to be talking all about that. And the really cool thing about Sean is Sean was our very first podcast guest. And now that we've been on a little 4-month sabbatical, he's our very first return guest. So it's just all very perfect. Welcome, Sean.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a fun full circle. I think I was one of the first 10 people to like your Facebook group way back in the day, too. So I feel like an old school, like a grandfather over here.
That's so funny. Yeah, we go way back. It's really exciting to have you as our first podcast guest after maternity leave, and it feels good to be back. Yesterday we did our first webinar, Katie and I, with Ernesto Segismundo, which was really fun, and I wasn't sure how it was going to go transitioning back to being like in the public appearance type stuff, with the live webinar, live podcast after being on maternity leave and being pretty sleep deprived. I have to say I got a little bit more sleep last night, so that's good. I don't feel like a walking zombie over here. But I do have the baby in the other room with the nanny. So if by chance you guys hear a little baby cry in the background, that's baby Jackson. He might make an appearance. You never know. I like to keep you guys on your toes. And Sean's in Mexico City. He says they have earthquakes all the time. So who knows? We could have a baby crying or an earthquake. It's just never a dull moment.
Or a barking dog, if you had already heard that, because someone rang the bell, probably Amazon, and I just heard the dog barking. So that's just life, right? So I just wanted to say, if this is your first time here, we want to welcome you with open arms. You are part of the Startup Nation superhero family, and we have a gift for you. That is our A to Z cheat sheet, the essentials for building and growing your dream practice. The really cool thing about the A to Z cheat sheet is people have emailed us and said, I have built my private practice off your podcast and the A to Z cheat sheet. That is extraordinarily amazing. And we're actually going to be speaking to someone who has done just that on the next podcast, but I'll tell you a little bit about that later on. So I would love for you to grab this, head on over to privatepracticestartup.com, head over to the resources tab, and there you will see it, download it, and it comes with 5 days of practice at building emails to really support your private practice growth. Before we dive in, let me share a little bit about Sean. Dr. Davis is a professor of marriage and family therapy at Alliant International University in California. He is a co-author of the 2014 and 2015 Article of the Year in the Journal of Marital and Family Therapy, as well as 2 of the field's most widely used theory textbooks. He's also owns the Davis Group, a thriving group practice with offices in Roseville and Palo Alto, California. Last but not least, he is also a closet archery aficionado. I didn't know that about you.
Yes, not many people do, except for my neighbors. Yeah.
Is that a newer thing, or that's been a...
No, I've done that since I was a kid. Love it. Yeah. It's very zen. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm into it. Yeah.
So I'm really excited about your topic because you're living your topic as we talk on this podcast about that. And as a therapist, really expanding and scaling into different areas is getting paid to travel. I guess my first question for you is, how long have you been, maybe share a little bit about what it is that you do to get paid to travel, and then how long have you been doing that?
Sure. Yeah. What I do, this is my 18th time in Mexico, down to in some part of Mexico, usually Mexico City, sometimes Baja. But what I do is I take therapists down to Mexico. I did one in Italy as well, which I'm going to be doing more of those in the near future. And I just find something in a place that I think would be interesting to therapists that you can sort of only get there. And then just go take therapists there and do it. And it's a lot of fun. I've been doing it, like I said, 18, 19 years. Right now, I'm down in Mexico City, like you said, in the middle of a trip where later this day, right after this, the students might bang on the door. We're headed over to the Basilica of Guadalupe. So if you have Catholic listeners, they'll know what that is. And then later, we're headed out into rural Mexico to an indigenous healing retreat. So the main focus of this trip is to learn about indigenous healing. And so what do cultures that don't use therapy as a means of getting better, what do they do? What have they relied on? And so learning about that. So we participate, we have a local healer lead us through a bunch of rituals, that type of thing, and learn about what can we learn about therapy from that. So it's fascinating. It's really intense, really deep, a lot of tears, a lot of growth, lots of bonding. It's fun. I'm at the point now where if I don't do at least one of these a year, I get really grumpy. Like it throws me off. It's become a vital part of what I do.
It's really cool to hear about how this is such a deep and amazing growth experience for you, for all of the attendees who come, and how this is in alignment with you having your dream business, like your dream business that fits your ideal lifestyle, with the ability to travel, get paid for that, not just be stuck in a therapy room seeing clients there in one type of a setting.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very therapeutic what happens down here. So there's a lot of overlap with all the other aspects of my career, and you rely a lot on your clinical skills. Like this trip, I'm taking 22 students all around Mexico City, or therapists, I should say, all around Mexico City, Mexico, and all sorts of things go wrong. All sorts of drama comes up. And so, as you can imagine, and it tests my clinical skills in ways that nothing else that I do does. So it keeps me fresh, because I've been practicing for 20 years, and it gets sort of routine. Like, it just gets routine. And so this stretches me and keeps it exciting.
I'm sure the audience is wondering, because I'm wondering. I want to hear a little bit about the dramas and the difficulties. What are some things that you've had to come up with? It's interesting because we travel a lot of times with Gate One Travel, which is great, because when I travel and I want to see a lot of places, as a business owner, I feel like I make so many decisions in my life. I just want to hand over the whole tour to someone else and they tell me what to do. And so, of course, I always ask, our guides, like, what are some crazy things they've run into? So I'm curious about that. I know the audience.
Yeah. Let's hear the adventures.
Yeah. What could I really share? Well,
they're not your clients, so we're not breaking
confidentiality. They're not my clients. You're right. But they do have my trust. And so, or I have their trust. So there's a lot of, so you can imagine it's a very vulnerable, very connecting experience. You're in a foreign country. You have to rely on yourself. There's been a fair amount of hooking up with locals, and getting into dicey situations there, hooking up with each other, getting into dicey situations there, getting lost. What else? I won't share. Well, almost getting sex trafficked. There's been a few things that come up that are pretty scary, but there's in every situation that has happened, it has been that person going against, I give everyone a really strict list of safety rules. Don't do these things. And in every situation where things have gone wrong, they've ignored the list. So, but there's a lot of crazy stuff. You have to be, no matter how carefully you plan these trips, I say, if things go well 70% of the time, that was an unbelievable trip. So things always go wrong. Yesterday, we went out to the pyramids of Teotihuacan, And one of the groups got off at the wrong end. And so it took like an hour and a half to get them back to the right place. And they were mad. And so it's just, it's the way it works, but it's loads of fun. In all of that is a lot of connecting and bonding and healing. And everyone's issues sort of come to the fore. But we're all sort of sacrificing together in a way. And so there's a real deep bonding. Some of these trips, the groups are still active 8 or 9 years later. So
that's really cool.
Yeah, I love it.
What is one of your favorite experiences? Maybe tell us a story that's happened in one of the places that you went to. I know you've been to different places. You mentioned Italy, Mexico. I think you did a wilderness one a couple of years ago where you guys were camping.
Yes. Southern Utah. Yeah, that was fun. We're putting more together, probably Belize, maybe Costa Rica. My favorite experience by far, so this is I'll answer that globally and then specifically. So globally, my favorite experience by far is there's a ton of just one-on-one walking time as we're walking around at all of these different things. And so I always just ask people, hey, what's your story? What are you about? And as we're walking along, and I have had hundreds of conversations with people as we do that. And just my favorite part is realizing how fascinating and deep and interesting everyone is. And if you just ask the questions and listen and really genuinely care. And my life is so much deeper as a result of all the conversations and much richer. I love it. So that's what I would say broadly. Specifically, one thing that we do on this trip, the Indigenous Healing Trip, is we go to it's a Temescal, it's called, which is a Toltec ritual that they used to do for their young men as they became warriors. And it's a sweat lodge, basically. You go in, it's pitch black. You can't see your hand in front of your face. And you're all sitting around and it gets really hot. And the local healer leads you through this ceremony. And it's incredibly powerful. And I remember once a friend of mine came on a trip and she had been struggling forever with some stuff. And you could see it weighing her down. And she got in the Temescal and she started crying. And it was about 2 days later that she stopped crying. And she felt fantastic afterwards. And still now she'll text me and be like, I can't get that out of my head. And it's been years and it changed her life.
Wow.
So things like that you really can't get. So much of therapy in the States, I think, is, what's the word? It's just, I don't know. It gets boring and routine to me. And so I love these things.
Mm-hmm. That's really
and
cool.
The people that come to too. Yeah.
And I have definitely a lot more questions for you, but before we do that, let's just take a quick break for our sponsor.
Okay, guys, it's sponsor time. You know what? Instead of reading a script about Gusto's payroll and benefits, we wanted to tell you what small business owners say, the people who use Gusto every day. Here's what one small business owner says. With Gusto, I think of payroll as a 30-second job. The website is so friendly and a joy to use. Friendly payroll? You don't hear that every day. And how about Amy from Utah? Amy says, I love Gusto so much. It's so painless. It's like going to the spa, and we have great options and rates, even though we're a super small team. Like going to the spa? Wow. And here's what Mneet says about Gusto's support team. Whenever something comes up, I reach out and literally 24 hours later, they tell us what to do or assure us that we've already handled it. Smart technology and friendly humans, that's super cool. Honestly, the list goes on, and right now our listeners get 3 months free when they go to gusto.com/PPS. Yep, 3 months of payroll, benefits, administration, and more, totally free. Again, that's gusto.com/PPS.
When it comes to keeping your practice organized, you want software that's not only simple, but the best. We recommend Therapy Notes. Their platform lets you manage notes, claims, scheduling, and they have a new awesome telehealth platform for your online counseling sessions. They offer amazing unlimited phone support and email support, so when you have a question, they are there to help. To get started with the practice management software trusted by over 60,000 professionals, go to therapynotes.com and start a free trial today. Enter promo code PPS, as in Private Practice Startup, and they will give you 2 months to try for free. Go to therapynotes.com.
Sean, you've been doing this for 18, 19 years now. And I know, so it sounds like there's some healing retreats, but I know you also have writing retreats, correct? Or are they combined?
Yeah. No. Well, there's some overlap, yes, in that some of the things we do in our writing retreats that are designed to sort of unblock your creativity and get your writing process going. There is some overlap between those two retreats. Like we do the Temescal in both, for example. But yeah, we do writing retreats as well, also down here in Mexico. And people come with their writing projects, whatever that might be. Some people, it's just been they wanted to get a bunch of blog entries done. Other people wanted to get a book out the door, which they've done, journal articles, website content, whatever it is. Like they just need some space to clear their head. And they come down, and Dr. Platt, who does the writing retreats with me, and I have both written a lot, and we're familiar with that process. And so we help them, coach them with that. And those are lots of fun too. Lots of brain power going on there as everyone's sitting there typing. They just kind of disperse through this little peaceful village and find a coffee shop and write. It's awesome.
Nice. I always find like when I go away, and one of the reasons I need to go away is I find that that's when I'm the most creative. And that's usually when Kate gets the most text from me. I shoot off all these ideas like, what about this? What about that? Because, you're like in this more calm, peaceful place and the creativity really does flow. I'm curious, how did you decide to do these different retreats, whether it's the kind of healing retreat or the writing retreat? And then my other question is, did you do it initially to like have a different source of income? And then when did it become a different source of income?
I did it initially just to do something that wasn't basic and boring. And so I wanted to, in my career, I don't know, I've always been kind of an unsettled professor, I think, in that there's a lot of academics that I think is just sort of silly. And so I didn't want to buy into that, much of which was just sitting in a boring classroom in a boring city talking, doing a PowerPoint. I don't find much meaning in that. And so
snooze fest.
Yeah, seriously, it's like, come on. And so we could sit up here and talk about, let's say, how poverty affects families, or we could go find some place in the world and go and be with families in poverty. It's a totally different experience. And so I got into it. My friend, Dr. Platt, who used to Alliant, where I work, had a campus. Where I work used to have a campus down here in Mexico City, and so I came down here at his invitation and taught a couples therapy class here, and just kind of sparked from there and took off. And it was a long time before I really even thought about it as a way to make money. It started off as just something I really liked doing, and I would make a little bit of money from the university paying me to teach the class, but not very much. And then it just dawned on me one day. It's like, look, a lot of people want to do this. And it would be very easy. And it's a really valuable experience. Like people tell me how life-changing it is. And so I can charge a bit of money, not, just keep it reasonable. And I end up, making a little for it. I get my trip paid for. And I make a bit of money on the side, and they're happy. They get an amazing experience for a good price, and everyone wins. So, like I said, it's probably my capstone of my career, the thing that feeds everything else, probably more than the others do.
I know one of the things that we were talking about before we pushed the record button is that this last time that you announced you were launching this new retreat, it sold out in 2 days, and you've been turning people away like crazy.
Yes, I don't really even advertise them, to be honest, anymore, because it has come to the point where they know the word is out among the people that know of the trip. The word's out, and they spread it to their friends. And so I get emails all year saying, "Hey, when are you doing the Mexico trip?" And so then when it comes, I send out an email, carefully crafted, I might add, using skills that I learned from your course, and the materials marketing the trip, and it fills up right away. Usually this year it filled up within 2 days, and I had a waiting list and ended up having to turn people away. So for next
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I don't remember exactly what happened, but I know you had emailed us, and I don't know if you had asked to take a look at your website or something like that, but it was for one of your retreats. And I remember I just kind of spontaneously did a website review for you.
Yes.
And that's how you were kind of like, oh, okay. And then we offered you to come into the course, and you did, and you just like exploded with your group practice. And now hearing that, you're able to just sell out in 2 days, and it sounds like there's a lot of word of mouth anyway. That's just really extraordinary.
Yeah, and it's really true. If I look back over the trajectory of my career and like what were the pivotal things that happened in it, one of them for sure would be connecting with you guys and getting your help with that. I remember when you gave me that review, Katie, I could kind of sense in your voice of like, okay, there's a lot to do here, which was fair enough. And there was, and so I enrolled. I could recognize that. I'm like, yeah, I'm really out of my depth here. I love these trips. Everyone else that goes on them does, but I need to get that out there, communicate that effectively. And so you guys really helped with that. Helped with my practice as well, which Kate and I were texting a month or so ago about this, and it's. Last year, I hit $500,000 with the practice, so that was very
Congratulations!
Extraordinary.
And this year,
it's amazing.
We're ahead of. It was very exciting, and I attribute that to the ideas I learned from you all. So.
And your hard work. It's really not all of us. We can give you the information, but you do the work.
It's so fun to be able to get the random texts from Sean or emails like, hey guys, check out check out my updated stats basically from the group practice, or we just opened another location, or, I'm bringing on all these new employees. It's just so cool to see your growth from that and to be part of your journey, because, that's really why we do what we do. And to know that we're helping you help so many people is really powerful.
Yeah, thank you. No, it's been great. Been super helpful.
Sean, with all of your years doing these retreats, if you were to begin to kind of simplify the process of how to get paid to travel, what have you learned, and what is now your process to make these fun, profitable, and healing at the same time?
Good question.
Yes. Sure. So there is a process to it that is simple and complex, but the simple part first. So first of all, you need to identify something that has value. One thing I've learned over the years is you can't just say, hey, come to Mexico. It's really cool. You're going to love it. You do, trust me, that doesn't work. You do have to give them something of value and say, okay, here, we're going to learn about indigenous healing. Here's why that matters to you. Here's the parts of your practice that feel a little empty to you and like something is missing. And here's how the indigenous healing can speak to that. And here's what we're going to do. And then you also need to give them something concrete. Like I through my business, I'm a continuing ed provider. So I do offer continuing ed units for this. So they can, I think it helps them just rationalize maybe to their partner or their mind, whatever, that I'm getting something concrete here. And then once you have that, you go this is the fun part, because this is a write-off. You take a trip down there yourself. You go wherever you're headed, buy your tickets, get on the plane, go there, and you run through a trial itinerary. And you make all your connections there. You find, someone to do a charter bus, a place to book, the hotel, a place for your nightly processing groups. And you run through the itinerary of whatever it is that you want to do. And you have to be super detailed with that. Picture yourself, if I'm going through this with 25 people, what will I need to know? And they all have different dietary restrictions and different levels of physical fitness and all of that stuff. You make a really detailed list of that, and then you come home and you basically then set up all your back-end processes, like your web page that markets this, and then the surveys you do need to, I should say, I learned this the hard way. You need to survey people before, it's not something where everyone who wants to go can, because one person who is not suited for the trip will ruin it for everyone else. And so I talk of it, to me, for my trips, you apply to go on them. And then when you apply, you and I set up a time to talk, and we kind of go through it to determine whether it will work for you. You explain the rigors of the trip, what it is, that type of thing. So that's one of the back end processes. You buy your insurance. You do need to get insurance, and even random stuff like wherever you're going, whatever threats or risks are unique to that place: earthquakes, floods, hurricanes.
What kind of insurance?
And coronavirus, right? Exactly. Kidnapping.
What kind of kidnapping insurance? What kind of insurance?
Probably shouldn't have said that.
What kind of insurance do you buy?
You can buy it through. I just buy mine through where we get our homeowners insurance. But they sell trip insurance for people that do this, that host retreats, that type of thing. It's not too expensive, which is good, which means they don't often use it. And then once you have that in place, you honestly just put the offer in front of your target market. And you do, one thing I have learned over the years is it helps to just put it out to, when we used to market our writing retreats to everyone that I knew and just say, hey, come on our writing retreat. No, it didn't go very well. But when we would narrow it into people that we knew liked writing or maybe had stuff bubbling around in their minds, they wanted to get out, then that helps a lot. So then put it out. And then honestly, you just let it go, let it run. You do have to be flexible, I would say. If you are the type of person who things have to go a particular way, this will drive, your head will explode on these things, trying to get everyone to do what you want them to do. It just doesn't work. So you have to you just start and lean into it. And honestly, it's so much fun just walking around. So to this day, like walking around Mexico or wherever, looking at all these students, therapists, professors, whoever it is, seeing these things for the first time, their eyes lighting up. It's magical.
Very cool. I just feel so strongly. I mean, this is our worldview, Kate and I, always looking at marketing. But, as I hear you talk about this, it's all very much the same, right? Being able to market things, it has the same structure, it has the same formula. And then I think I would like to throw in our ad at the end. I'm sure that you kind of review what worked, what didn't work. And I know as you were talking about like the dramas that have happened, I think about like our consent, right? Our consent is so long because it also adds all the different therapist experiences that we've been through, right? And so part of that business and marketing and stuff like that is constantly evolving, and then reviewing at the end, and then probably adding those things into your waiver and those rules, like highly recommended not to hook up with other people, in the party or locals, or do I think get sex traffic, like things like that, and so that's just kind of part of growing a business and experience. And so it's just cool to kind of listen to how that structure, no matter what we do, is very similar, the basics of that.
Exactly. I keep a list, and my consent grows longer each trip. And I keep a list of things. In fact, I was just typing some stuff on it this morning, stuff I've learned. Okay, don't do this next time, do this next time. And so everyone gets, it becomes a smoother machine.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Yeah. And what are some of the things that you've learned about yourself doing these things? I know you said it increases your clinical practice, but personally?
Oh, yeah. Wow, that's a great question. What have I learned about myself? I really enjoy doing adventurous things. I really enjoy to be a little more vulnerable. I enjoy kind of being in charge. I enjoy being kind of valued in that way, I guess you could say, putting that out there. And so some of that, there's been a journey for me with that, and realizing, okay, Sean, these trips are not about you. It's about giving people this experience, which you facilitate as needed. And then an ideal trip is one in which I'm kind of in the background, and the place where we are is the star of the trip, and the experience that they have as they interact with that is the star of the trip. That took a while for me to get to. I wanted to be the star of the trip if I can add some narcissism in there. But then, things go wrong with that, of course. And so I learned about that and have stepped back over the years, which has been great. And now, honestly, I get such a charge of just watching people love the places that I love too.
You're talking about the hero's journey at this point, being able to step back from that role of you being the hero and really empowering them to be the hero, and you're the guide, helping them to have that experience in these amazing places.
Yeah. In a perfect, I hadn't thought of it that way, but yeah, that's cool. In a perfect world, it's the trip they remember, it's the place they remember. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say then they connect you to the place, right? Because it's the experience.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what I have to offer most now is just really focused, sincere, like personal caring about them as individuals. And I love, like yesterday we were on a 2-hour bus ride coming in from a place called Xochimilco. And I was just talking with a group of 4 or 5 of them for 2 hours, and they were all just telling their stories. And by the end, everyone's in tears, and it's so much fun. I love that. But just really focusing in on people's stories. I don't know. I could do that all day.
Nice. Maybe, what would be cool? I know you like writing. Maybe you create like the stories of these trips or something like that. That'd be cool. I don't know.
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, that's a good idea. I've thought of stuff like that.
Sean, what do you hope that people take away from your message today?
The big picture thing is that there are a lot of options for you as a therapist with the skill set that you have to live a life that you love.
And if you love it, chills. That makes me so excited. And
that's a really good quote.
I didn't mean to interrupt your message, but that was really important because we have so many amazing skills. Okay, sorry.
Yeah. You really should. And I understand that people's family situations are different and phases of life are different. Like Kate with her new baby is probably not going to be doing these getting paid to travel trips for a while.
No, I know you've invited me on them and I would love to come. But
yes.
Yeah, at this stage in life with 2 young kids, it just is not possible.
No, it doesn't happen. Yeah, I've offered to both of you. As my kids have gotten older, I take them on a lot of these trips. So a lot of these, my kids are bouncing along with me. But back to your question of what would I say to the therapist is just really, if you're feeling stuck, and yeah, phase of life is part of it, and some phases of life are just kind of more stuck in a way. But if you're not in that, but you're just stuck, there's so many ways for you to do other things that will bring you more fulfillment. These trips are not hard to do. My wife is going on one later this year to England for like 2 or 3 weeks. That is a book tour of all these. It's a book club, and they just decided to go on. They didn't decide. Some lady proposed it, and they went on it, of this trip where they just tour all the book sites of the books they're reading, and that lady's making a ton of money. They're way more expensive than mine are. So this trip paid for hers. Anyway, so that's, there's a lot of things you can do. Just get creative and put something together. It's fun.
Nice.
There's no one telling you can't.
And I know that you have a giveaway for our audience. What is that?
I do. $100 off my next trip that I put on. You can find out about them by going to my website, thedavisgroup.org. There's a section there on resources for therapists, and that's where I list the next writing retreat, the next Indigenous healing retreat. We're going to Italy soon, over there we learned strategic therapy. The what used to be MRI over here essentially translated over to Italy, and so the people over there are doing brilliant stuff. So we do that, eat a lot of gelato, tour around, have fun.
Nice. Well, Sean, we so appreciate you being our first podcast back from our little sabbatical. And we hope that Startup Nation, you guys join us next week as we talk with Chrissy Barlan. And Chrissy is an intern that actually built her practice off of our podcast and all of our information. So she's going to be talking about, if I can do it, you can do it too. 4 tips from an intern level clinician. And let's have our Startup Nation superhero shout out.
Yes, let's take a moment to shout out Elizabeth Oliveras. Elizabeth says, I took the marketing e-course and coaching program, and I can genuinely say that it changed everything for me. I was at the very beginning of opening my private practice and didn't even have an office space yet. I'm writing this about 1 month post finishing the course, and I have an office space, completed website, more knowledge about the business side of things than I ever would have known, and a 90-day marketing plan to continue to grow my business. The greatest part to me is the confidence I've gained in knowing that my business is set up the right way. I'm only seeing my ideal clients. I'm 3 months into owning my own private practice, and I'm breaking even, which is incredible, and I feel in control of my business. If you're wanting your business to be set up correctly and gain confidence, don't hesitate to take the course. Thank you so much, Kate and Katie. So much love to you both. Elizabeth, that is so awesome to hear. And it's amazing because it hasn't even been a year since she started our marketing e-course and coaching program. It's been probably about 10 months at this point, and she has a full practice. We were just talking with her the other day. She's seeing over 20 clients a week and living her dream lifestyle. And it's just amazing to see all of the changes that have happened for her. And it's something that really inspires us. So that is very touching to hear. Thank you, Elizabeth.
And Startup Nation, this is just really our passion. We'll go ahead and add our link to our marketing e-course and coaching programs so we can support you in really working with the clients you love and building your dream practice. And in the meantime, we would love for you, if you're not already, to be part of our Startup Nation superhero community on Facebook. So just look for the Private Practice Startup and join, and we'll see you there. And as always, we want to just invite you, if this was a really helpful episode for you, maybe you are in this place of wanting to get paid to travel, for sure, make sure you share this with a friend or a colleague. And as always, we love your feedback. So the spontaneous reviews on iTunes or Google or Facebook, or even just your personal emails, like that's the stuff that makes our day. So as we always say, from us to you, thanks so much for allowing us to inspire you from startup to mastery. Take care, Startup Nation.
Thanks for joining us on The Private Practice Startup. Visit theprivatepracticestartup.com for awesome resources, free trainings, attorney-approved private practice paperwork, and so much more.